Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you hear me? Mr. Roseman, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your childhood? We know you grew up in Brooklyn, and tell us a little bit about your family, and then maybe lead into high school.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I love these events where I get to talk to people who are able to dream big and to understand that if you're passionate and determined in whatever field you're in, it doesn't matter if it's football, if it's sports, if it's business, you got an edge up on everyone. So, for me, that was my edge. I just knew what I wanted to do in life. And I was fortunate that people gave me the opportunity to learn and do things the right way. And obviously, I'm a product of the people that inspired me and that I'm around.
Thank you. Could you possibly tell us about where you grew up, a little bit about your childhood, and growing into your teenage years, and what your aspirations were at that time?
Yeah, I always had this unbelievable passion and interest in sports, obviously in football, but I wrestled in high school at 119 pounds, so nobody was giving me the opportunity to play quarterback for them. But I loved the idea of team building. I loved the idea of putting people together, fitting the parts together. I loved that at an early age. And so, I just wrote a ton of letters trying to make connections with people. I tried to do the best I could academically. Whether it was in high school or college, or then I went to grad school just to make myself more appealable to employers. And obviously just trying to meet and talk to as many good people as I possibly could.
You were mentioning the process of you wrote a bunch of letters. So when did you decide, at what age, that you would like to go try to get into management or help out in the NFL?
I was fortunate that really young, I wanted to go in this direction. I used to watch football games and just love how they kind of drafted players, how they picked players. And then I went to the University of Florida because I had a lot of admiration for how they played offensive football. And so I used to tell people when I was 12 years old, I thought I was going to be a quarterback in the NFL. I got a reality check pretty early in life on that. And then I really kind of was going through that when I was 12 and 13, trying to get to the NFL, writing letters, trying to make connections. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any connections in the NFL. And then I was fortunate at the University of Florida to my college roommate who just happened to be in the same fraternity as I. He's now the head coach of the University of Arizona. He was the same way, really determined in that way. And I think when you're that determined and you're that persistent and you do the right things, it gives you a chance.
Yeah, your story is compelling, and it's so unusual for the NFL or to get into the MLB or the NBA. Tell me about, you said you wrote letters. Obviously, you were turned down. Were people even answering you, or were you not getting any responses, or did you get a few interviews? And how did they feel about you not being a college football player, trying to get into almost like a closed society?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, I think we got to be comfortable with rejection. We got to be comfortable with the word no. I think it's so much easier for people to tell everyone no than yes, that if you're really affected by the one or two no's or the rejection, it's hard to overcome that. I mean, the most successful people in life, they have adversity. Nobody's life is a straight line. Everyone's going to have ups and downs, roller coasters in life, and it's how you react to that. And I think that there were so many people. I mean, I have rejection letters floor to ceiling from NFL teams who are saying no, 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 no. And I just kind of kept at it. Now, it was a different time. The world was different. It wasn't as interconnected as it is now. But I didn't get a chance to interview for a team until I was in law school, and I got a chance to interview for the Jets for an internship job. And what happened there was they just brought me in because they had seen how many times I wrote thank you letters for being rejected, and they brought me in to talk to me. And it actually led me to the Eagles because there was this joke about this stalker who wouldn't stop trying to communicate with both teams. And the Jets called the Eagles and said they brought me in, and it got me an internship at the Eagles. And I think that's the other thing. It's like none of this starts at the top. every path starts at the ground level, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes at whatever opportunity you get, no matter how hard it is, to move up.
Howie, can you talk a little bit about that moment where you're struggling, and I call it the turn back moment, right? Where you had to make a decision. Maybe you were getting discouraged in yourself. You weren't getting the responses that you liked. You thought, maybe this is the wrong decision for me. Maybe I'm on the wrong path. Did you have one specific moment where you sort of felt that? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, for sure. I was fortunate because I was around such great people when I first started my job with Coach Reed and his staff, and Tom Heckert and his staff. And then I got a GM job in 2010. And, in 2015, I kind of lost my job, and everything that came with that, and all the articles, and, kind of a public humiliation that went with that, and not really thinking I would get the opportunity to ever get it back. And so you kind of question at that moment, maybe you should do something else. Is it worthwhile? And, I kind of took a lot of stock of myself and how I can improve myself. And I went around the country. I was very fortunate to be able to do that and meet with teams and coaches and business leaders about how to be a better leader, how to build teams better on and off the field. And I really feel like that opportunity helped us when I came back. And obviously, winning the Super Bowl in 2017 makes me feel like I made the right decision.
You mentioned the Super Bowl. It leads into my next question. Can you talk a little bit about goal setting, right? You've had a tremendous amount of success, both personally and professionally, as have the Eagles. And we all know it's hardest to get to the top of the mountain, but then how do you stay at the top of the mountain? How do you go through your day process of looking at how can I be the best GM, father, et cetera, on a daily basis? How do you set goals?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think when you're in these jobs, whatever field you're in, you have to have a competitive nature about you. You have to want to compete, and otherwise you can't stay on top. You're going to get embarrassed. And so I think when you think have all the answers, I think that's when you get your butt kicked. And so for us, I think it's just being inquisitive, trying to hire the best possible people around you, have the best people around you, and have open doors of communication for the best ideas. I think anyone who thinks they can do anything on their own, doesn't understand what teams are all about, and doesn't understand how important teamwork is. And that's not just in the NFL. That's not just in sports. That's in life. You need a team around you. You need a team of people around you who are looking out for your best interests, who are pushing you to do whatever it is that you want to do. And everyone deserves to have those kind of positive people around them.
Well, you've had so much success, Howie, and I think you hit it right on the head, and Mike's question was very valid, that to me, climbing to the top is much easier than staying there. And I know this will be a tough one, but I have to throw in a couple football ones. How do you separate your management organization and your teams? It seems like you look at the draft and trades a little bit different than other people. As you know, they're calling you the Wolf of Broad Street, and that's flattering. And you had such a great draft this year, and then of course you picked up DeAndre Swift from the Lions, who I knew from St. Joe's Prep. But how does your management and front office team separate themselves from the other front office teams in the league without giving away any of your secrets?
Yeah, obviously, it's very cool when you talk about a guy like DeAndre Swift, St. Joe's Prep kid, Philly kid. He's recruitment video. He's freaking on the Rocky steps. And those are great stories. But I think at the end of the day, the hardest part of this is, you're trying to pick the best team, and you're not. I joke a lot of times, someone will say, how hard is it to cut someone? And I said, well, when they're really good people, and I'll say, well, the best person I know is my wife, and I don't want her playing football for us either. So I think at the end of the day, we got a responsibility to make sure that not only we have really good people, but we have really good players. And so when we try to put the team together, we try to put it with kind of match it with personalities and obviously skill sets. And I think at the end of the day, we got a responsibility to everyone to do that, but we also want the best people. So we want guys who can handle adversity, who when things are going bad are able to overcome those things. And so I think the hardest thing we have to do is let people go and tell people that, they can't play for us anymore.
Howie, thank you. We know your time is limited, but I wanted, and this is a big one final question for you, if you could really sort of share your thoughts. When we look at social media today, that's a big deal in sports, right? It's a big deal for professional athletes. It is a huge deal for high school athletes. Can you talk a little bit about how the Eagles organization handles that? You guys do a great job. We don't hear about things with the players getting in trouble, seeing inappropriate things on social media. Just as a football coach, as a businessman, if you could just talk a little bit about how you guys handle that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think for us, obviously it's a rabbit hole. It's a struggle for people of every age. I mean, I don't care if you're 60, if you're 30, if you're 20, if you're 15. It's hard to get off these phones. It's hard to deal with it. But, I think what people don't realize is these things don't go away. We have draft picks who did things when they were 13 and 14 years old, and they think they're gone, and they have to answer those questions. And I think all of us want to represent ourselves in a professional way, and we'll understand we're representing our families. And so when you do things, when you put things out there, whether it's on a text message, whether it's on a social media app, those things are going to stay with you for life. And so you gotta remember in the heat of the moment what you're doing and what you're representing, because it's your brand. Everyone has their own brand these days. You don't have to be a famous athlete. You don't have to be anyone other than yourself to have a brand, and know that employers are going to be looking at that. And you have to be careful what you do, because it's going to follow you for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Howie. We really appreciate you taking the time, and it was very generous of you. Let's give a hand to Howie Roseman.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.